We are here with Chef Rathbun, talking to him at Hickory Plano. We're going to talk about business in Dallas and a whole bunch of other stuff. Just a heads up, we are going to break this up in about 10-minute sessions so that we have some good sound bites, and we're going to be on and off for a while with Chef, so make sure that if we leave, you come back, all right? So, Chef, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we were talking earlier about doing business in Dallas, right?
Sure.
And about the economy in Dallas and what's going on and staying relevant. So, you know, how do you find as a business owner how to know what decisions to make and what's relevant and what's not?
Well, I mean, I think experience has a lot to do with that, and I wish I could tell you that every decision I've ever made was the right one. But having made some bad decisions before, that's how you learn. And I try to learn from other people's bad decisions. Unfortunately, sometimes I learn from my own. But it's all about recognizing what works and what doesn't, and being able to try to speculate a little bit about what might work. Because this is a different environment in business right now. You have to be a lot more careful about what you do. The margins are lower, so you don't have as much room to play around now as you used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, have you ever thought about doing anything other than restaurants? It sounds like your management style can apply to everything.
You know, I really like to do things that people are really thrilled with, and so whatever I do in life, if I were to change my career today, I would still have to do something where, at the end of the day or the end of the project, that there would be the people that I'm trying to please would be going, "This is awesome." And you know, not every job is like that. You know, not every job is, in fact, some jobs you do, you don't even know for years, you know, weeks, months, years, if you've done the right thing or not. And that's not really for me. I don't know, I feel like I need a little bit more instantaneous gratification, which I think is one of the greatest things about being a chef. You can go to the table and immediately know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put this closer to make sure that everybody can hear you, because we've got music on.
Okay.
So we might need to talk a little bit louder, so we're going to reposition ourselves here. So yeah, absolutely. And in the food business, you know, making food that people enjoy and just watching the smile on their faces by itself, right?
Well, and you know, unfortunately, you can find if you've made a mistake too pretty fast. You know, you go out to a table and you ask how their food is, and they look at you and they go, "Well, my steak was overcooked." You know, that hits home pretty fast too. So, you know, but that's also, I turn that into a positive thing, because that tells me that I've got an issue with my grill guys or something's going on that's causing that to happen, so I can immediately go back and make some change at that point.
Absolutely. So what do you think the toughest decision is you've ever had to make?
Well, right, in our business right now, one of the toughest decisions I've ever had to make is shutting down Blue Plate Kitchen. You know, Blue Plate Kitchen, we shut it down for a number of reasons, but honestly, I feel like, and I've said this to many people, you know, I don't look at Blue Plate as a failure, because I think as a concept, I think it was very well received. I think I was happy with it. I think the people that came there were happy with it. I think it was simply in the wrong location. And I feel like, let me just tell you, in my career, I've never felt more strongly about location as I do today. And I think that this is really important, and I think in today's environment, with all the competition that we have in our business, you have to be doing everything on the right way. I mean, it just doesn't work. If something's missing significantly, it's really going to be a problem. And so you really have to think in all aspects.
So how did you decide on this location in Plano?
Well, so this location in Plano, we actually had as a location prior to Hickory. And so what ended up happening here was, you know, we have this location, we own the lease here, and we thought, what do we need to do with this? We actually had our catering company located here. Part of the reason that we shut down Blue Plate is to move our catering kitchen to Blue Plate, because it makes sense. 80%, in fact 85% of all of our catering is done south of 635. Well, it didn't make sense to have the catering kitchen located clear up in Plano. So we basically swapped here. So we moved the catering kitchen from where Hickory is now to where Blue Plate is, and then we reopened Hickory. And so that was a good business decision, but it was largely driven too by the lack of business at night in that center. Had Blue Plate Kitchen done the same business at night as we did every day for lunch, we wouldn't have had this conversation, because we killed it at lunch. It's hard to get anybody there at night.
So would you reopen that concept somewhere else?
I would definitely consider reopening Blue Plate Kitchen. I mean, I thought it was a really interesting, fun place, but I do think, again, there's certain locations that are going to be better suited for a restaurant like that. And I mean, if you go there right now, you can drive through that center right now, and it will be extremely slow after about 6 o'clock. Oddly enough, if you walk across the street 200 feet to the other side, where Preston Center is on the east side of Preston, you have Hillstone, you have Taco Diner, you have R&D. These restaurants are packed, you can't get in them. And you know, it took me a while to really understand that. One day I was taking a bike ride with my son. We rode through that parking lot at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. There was no one there. So I really had a chance to look at what's going on over there. That side is beautifully landscaped. It's got plenty of parking. It's got retail that makes sense. It's high-end retail. It's nice stores. And so clearly the draw there is all of that combined. We then drove across the street heading through Preston Center on the west side, and we realized that some of the retail over there is not, I would not consider it retail. There's very little parking. You know, we have the parking deck there, which is, you know, maybe one of the ugliest things in the whole center. They need to do something with that. They need to do something with that. And I realized then that these are two different places completely. So it's easy to see why one does better at night.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you say that. We're actually working with a center in Irving, trying to do marketing for them. And what I've realized kind of in learning that as well with these centers is that you may have the best product, but if you're surrounded by things that are not desirable, you're just not going to get the traffic.
Right.
And I wish that more landlords would realize that, and realize that you've got to have a healthy mix, right?
I'll tell you, the word mix is exactly what was floating in my head when you were talking. You have to have the right mix. And, you know, not all land developers have figured this out yet. And I think that the more that they go along and they spend, you know, millions of dollars to put these projects together, the more importance is put on that mix. Because, you know, at the end of the day, even if you have a bunch of high-end things, if they're competing against each other too much, then they hurt each other.
Delusion, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So there has to be a lot of effort by these landlords and these developers put into the right mix. And they have to consider that the tenants are somebody that we want here for 20 years. We want you to do a 10-year lease and a 10-year op. And if you don't set them up for success, then you'll be looking for somebody to fill that space. And that's a kiss of death too, to be in a center where there's always a for lease sign up.
Absolutely. Well, it's cheaper to keep someone. It's like the hotel business, right? It's easier to keep that customer than to bring someone in here.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's interesting that you say this, and maybe you can lend some of that expertise and kind of get into the development side of it. But there does have to be a mix, I think, of everything to do, because what I find, you know, one of the other things that we're trying to do at TryDallas, you know, we're really focused on helping non-franchises, right?
Right.
Franchises have all the support. They've got deep pockets. People like you and other restaurateurs and other restaurants, people like me, we don't have those deep pockets.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is build awareness of all these locals, right? But then we also want to focus on not just trying the city, but try my community and try my corner. I live in Allen, and so there's two places that I go to all the time. They have everything I need.
Right.
Right? I don't have to go anywhere else. They have absolutely everything I need. And I think if more developers realize that, they would have much more successful corners.